Today, an FDA approval in squamous cell non-small cell lung cancer, priority reviews in both head and neck cancer and Hodgkin lymphoma, and highlights from the 2016 European Lung Cancer Conference. Welcome to Enclave News Network. I'm Lauren Ettinger. The FDA has approved afatinib for the treatment of patients with advanced squamous cell non-small cell lung cancer following progression on platinum-based chemotherapy. The decision was based on results from the Phase 3 LUX-Lung-8 study, which compared second-line afatinib with erlotinib in patients with advanced disease. In the study, afatinib reduced the risk of death by 19% and disease progression by 18% compared with erlotinib. In the study, OS was 7.9 months versus 6.8 months with afatinib versus erlotinib respectively. PFS was 2.4 months with afatinib compared to 1.9 months with erlotinib. The objective response rates were similar between the two arms at 6% and 11% respectively. Additionally, more patients reported overall improved health-related quality of life with afatinib than erlotinib. In a statement, Dr. Shirish Gadgil, leader of the Thoracic Oncology Multidisciplinary Team at the Karmanos Cancer Center, said, "The overall survival data and significant delay in lung cancer progression seen in the global head-to-head Phase 3 trial demonstrated that Gilotryf is an effective new treatment option for this patient population." The FDA has granted a priority review to pembrolizumab as a treatment for patients with recurrent or metastatic head and neck squamous cell carcinoma following platinum-based chemotherapy. The designation was based upon data from the Phase 1b KEYNOTE-12 study, which demonstrated an objective response rate of 23.7% in patients with head and neck cancer who received pembrolizumab at either 200 milligrams every 3 weeks or 10 milligrams per kilogram every 2 weeks. By RECIST criteria, the stable disease rate was 25.4%. The median overall survival across evaluable patients was 9.6 months, while the 6-month OS rate was 60.2%. At 12 months, 47% of patients remained alive. Historically, the median OS in the second-line setting is 6 months for patients with head and neck cancer. If approved, pembrolizumab indication is for the 200 milligram dose administered intravenously every 3 weeks. Prior approvals for the PD-1 inhibitor have been for 2 milligrams per kilogram dose. In a statement, Dr. Richard Dancy, Senior Vice President and Therapeutic Area Head, Oncology Late-Stage Development at Merck Research Laboratories, the company that is developing the drug, said, "Starting in the early days of our development program, we have explored the role of Keytruda for patients with head and neck cancer, a difficult-to-treat and debilitating disease with very few treatment options. We are encouraged by the data emerging from our program in this type of cancer and welcome today's news as this is a very important step towards making Keytruda available to these patients." Under the Prescription Drug User Fee Act, the FDA is scheduled to make a decision on the approval by August 9, 2016. Pembrolizumab continues to be studied in patients with NSCLC across treatment settings, including after platinum therapy and cetuximab, or in comparison with standard treatment for recurrent or metastatic disease. In classical Hodgkin lymphoma, the FDA granted a priority review to nivolumab for use in previously treated patients. The supplemental biologics license application was submitted under a 2014 breakthrough therapy designation that nivolumab received as a treatment for these patients following autologous stem cell transplant and brentuximab vedotin. The application is based on data from the open-label Phase 2 Checkmate 205 trial, which is investigating nivolumab in both newly diagnosed and previously treated patients with classical Hodgkin lymphoma. Results from this study have not yet been presented and are being prepared for an upcoming scientific meeting. In an analysis from a previous Phase 1 study, the overall response rate with nivolumab was 87%. This included 6 complete responses and 14 partial responses. Under the expedited priority review, the FDA will review the application within 6 months. If approved, nivolumab would become the first PD-1 inhibitor for hematologic malignancy. Currently, nivolumab has regulatory approval in 48 countries. In the United States, the drug has FDA-approved indications in renal cell carcinoma, melanoma, and non-small cell lung cancer. The FDA has granted a breakthrough therapy designation to pembrolizumab as a treatment for patients with relapsed or refractory classical Hodgkin lymphoma. The designation was based on Phase 1b data from the KEYNOTE-13 study, along with yet unpublished findings from the Phase 2 KEYNOTE-87 trial. In the Phase 1b study, pembrolizumab demonstrated an objective response rate of 65% in pretreated patients with classical Hodgkin lymphoma. The response rate included 5 complete responses and 15 partial responses. The median duration of response was not yet reached. According to Merck, which is the company developing the PD-1 inhibitor, findings from KEYNOTE-87 will be presented at the upcoming medical meeting. This is the 4th breakthrough designation received by pembrolizumab. Dr. Roger M. Perlmutter from Merck said, "The FDA's breakthrough designation for this blood cancer provides an important mechanism to assist us in bringing this immunotherapy to patients who could benefit from its use." The 2016 European Lung Cancer Conference took place in Geneva, Switzerland over the weekend, highlighting some of the most exciting advancements in the field. In one study that was presented, patients with non-small cell lung cancer who had ceased to respond to EGFR TKI therapy demonstrated a rapid and robust response to BI 1482694. The investigational agent received a breakthrough therapy designation from the FDA in December 2015 based on Phase 1-2 data that demonstrated an objective response rate of 62% by independent assessment in patients with T790M positive NSCLC. Results presented at this year's meeting are from an extension cohort in which the disease control rate was 91% in 63 patients who received the treatment. The most common treatment-related adverse events included diarrhea, which was reported by 55% of patients. Additionally, approximately 35% of patients experienced rash, nausea, and pruritus. Grade 3 rash and pruritus were reported by 5% and 1% of patients, respectively. Also presented at the meeting was first-line data with single-agent osimertinib, which induced a response rate of 77% in patients with EGFR-mutated non-small cell lung cancer. The frontline findings came from a study comprising 60 treatment-naive patients with locally advanced or metastatic EGFR-positive NSCLC from 2 Phase 1 expansion cohorts of Phase 1-2 AURA trial. Results of the study showed that the median progression-free survival was 19.3 months for patients receiving osimertinib. The median duration of response was 16.7 months, with 160 milligrams and non-calculable in the 80 milligram group. In a statement, lead study author Dr. Suresh Ramalingam, a professor of hematology and medical oncology at Emory School of Medicine and deputy director of Winship Cancer Institute, said, "The overall response rate was among the best reported for first-line therapy of EGFR-mutated NSCLC. The PFS results were exciting, well exceeding the historical control rates of 10 to 13 months with first or second-generation drugs. Many of the patients have not had disease progression on the study and are still benefiting from the treatment." Osimertinib is also being explored in second-line non-small cell lung cancer. At the European Lung Cancer Conference, new data confirmed the drug's efficacy for its FDA-approved indication in patients with EGFR T790M mutation-positive NSCLC who progressed on an EGFR TKI was presented. At the 80 milligram recommended dose in this setting, the overall response rate was 71% in a Phase 1 dose expansion cohort and 66% in a pooled analysis of 411 patients from 2 Phase 2 studies. The median PFS was 9.7 months and 11 months for the expansion cohort and pool results, respectively. Additionally, the disease control rate was 93% in the Phase 1 group and 91% in the Phase 2 cohort. Median duration of response was 9.6 months and 12.5 months, respectively. That's all for today. Thank you for watching Enclave News Network. I'm Lauren Ettinger.